Now, I was going to do my program now, but we do have a couple of guests that we're going to try to fit in. I hope you don't mind, because these are people in the neighborhood, working in the neighborhood, and they take priority. His name is Shawn Gardner, and two, not one. It's about it's basically a fatherhood initiative. We know the problems, we know the statistics. Families with two parents, with two guardians, do better than parents with one or with none. So I would say this person is at the grassroots level of the problem, and that's dealing with family. So I'd like to introduce him now. His name is Shawn Gardner. He works with families and fathers, and it's called Two, Not One. Number two, not one. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. How's everybody doing today? Yay, nay. Y'all just ready to go, aren't you? I bet you I'm that guy you looking at like one more person. Come on now. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. First off, my organization is Two Not One Fatherhood and Families. And for me, being able to speak at the Youth Violence Conference is a big piece of the work I do. Let me just say this. The mission of Two Not One is to promote the safety and well-being of children by implementing strategies to keep fathers involved and families together. And anytime I think about violence, especially the violence that prompted us to have a Safe Neighborhoods director, I often think, would it be the same if fathers were involved with those children? Would it be the same if fathers were in the homes? Would it be the same if we didn't have 80% of our children coming from absent fathers absent in the house? Now, part of that, I got to think about when I was growing up and I didn't have a father. And so that prompted me to do the work that I do with young people. So let me just kind of go there, then I'm going to read a piece out of my book, and then I'm going to sit down. Now, the work that I do with young people, I said, well, let me see what I could do to help young people going through what I was going through. And so I came up with something called the blueprint. The blueprint is my way of working with a young person, that when I walk into a school, it's almost as if none of the teachers want that kid in the classroom, and then you can't even threaten that kid with saying, I'm going to call home, because there's not going to be any repercussions to getting a call home. So in essence, I got to take that kid who pretty much feels like they're here by themselves and get them to understand what does that look like by giving them the tools to make the best decisions they can make. So what I want to do, I spoke to two of the young people earlier, Larry and Lamaya. So I'm going to pause talking to you adults for a second, and I want those two young people to come up. Larry and Lamaya, come on. I told you I was going to call you. And can we give them a hand? Because we're talking about youth violence. So we really, anytime our young people do something, I think we should find a way to encourage and motivate them and let them know that we can appreciate everything that they're doing. So first off, I appreciate you all coming up. Now, you're Lamaya and you're Larry? No? Did I get it wrong? I got it wrong? I knew I was going to turn Lamaya up. Did I turn it up? Oh, you're Lamaya. I'm just messing with you. I knew. So now, Lamar, you go to Myers. Anything you want to say?
Nope.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. Now, Larry, you go to Mill. Anything you want to say?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, I'm just glad that they're here. So this is what I want to do. Now, when I talk about giving tools, I could tell you what I do, but I'd rather show you what I do when I work with young people. Now, we all know that JCPS has a zero tolerance policy when it comes to anything, right? Anything that... any violence, anything. Just you did something wrong, we're going to get you out of here. So one of the things that I know comes up with our young people we're talking about is violence and getting into altercations. And I think sometimes, and I heard it alluded to earlier, because the thing about doing this work, you run into the same circles. So I know Ramsey with PSET. I know Anthony Smith. I know Mr. Shawn. So I know these folks, and I know that the work that they're doing, and so some of this is going to mirror what they said. But so, have you ever seen a fight take place in school?
Yes.
And how about you?
Yep.
So when a fight takes place in school, somebody gets hit, right? And then the other person hits back. Okay, so I need one of you stand right here and one of you stand right here. So what I need for you to do, I need for you to help me understand what this looks like. Now, hopefully, if something does break out, it won't be a guy and a girl, right? Hopefully, it'll be the same gender. But in this case, since we're role playing, it doesn't matter, okay? So can you show us, those of us who don't understand how a fight takes off, what it looks like? Show me. You're in the hallway and you're about to fight. What does it look like? Show me, I don't know. They say, hold on, stop, wait. Well, hold on. Now, wait a minute. Now, see, this is a new thing to me because some groups I talk to, they always say they just hit them, right? Now, I remember when I was growing up, you did that. You took off your jacket, you took off your hat, you took off your glove. It took about 2 hours to take off all your stuff to get ready to fight. So they still do that. Okay. So, now, let me ask you something. If that was to happen, so let's say, go do that thing again, Now stop right there. Now what I want you all to do is when they do this, I want you to go, ooh. That ready? Okay. Go. Oh, okay, is that what happens? Is that what happens? Okay, so now that they done said, ooh, and you done committed to taking off your jacket, how do you get out of that without fighting?
Unless somebody likes.
I don't know now. So this is my workshop. This is what you teach them is STAR. I'm gonna just give them some tools to get out of this, and then when they come and see you, tell them all about STAR, stop, think, and act, and react. Okay. So you do that, and you feel like there's no way out of it, right? So here's what I'm gonna do, and I don't even know if there's a way out of it. But what I am gonna do is give you an option. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. Come here. Okay, now here we go. Now remember, your role is to go, ooh! You two are supposed to come together, right? And I want you to just be aggressive. Just be like, I'm about to knock you out. You okay? You ready? You ready? All right, Lamar, you ready? First of all, Lamar, are you going to fight with your hands in your pocket? Look at you. All right. Now ready? Go. All right, now from here, what could you do? So let's say there's a teacher right there. So let's say there's a teacher coming down the hall and you're backing away. You're not going to go tell the teacher, but you're going to back away toward the teacher by saying what?
I'm not trying to get suspended or something like that.
Okay, so let's do it again. Show me, just show me. Y'all ready? Go. All right. Now, hold on. Now look, I know that seems simplistic, and it is. And will that stop you from getting into a fight? So before I ask you all, I'm going to ask you two, will that work? Yes or no?
Sometimes people are like, whenever they do get an altercation, they're about to fight, they'll be like, you're not worth it or something like that, so it ends it basically.
Okay, so this is the first time I ever got that one. A lot of times I hear it can't happen. So you're saying that might possibly work. So, well, first of all, let's do this. So thank you. So can you give me a hand? And I got something for y'all before I leave, okay? I got something for you, okay? All right. Now, so let me tell you why I do that. I do that because when I work with young people, I'm a firm believer. See, what we'll do is we'll tell young people, don't fight. When you go, don't fight. And you can't tell a young person not to fight when they go into school and something like that goes down. But here's what I tell you. In situations like that, I've been in auditoriums packed with young people, and I always tell the students, if half the school said, because they're always concerned about their reputation. Oh, man, they're going to call me a chump. They're going to call me a punk, right? And they're always concerned. I said, well, look, half the school agrees with what you just did. So if half the school agrees with what you just did, then you can't be a chump with everybody. And also, when you walking away, you can't tell a teacher. You can't they want to fight me. You know you can't do that, but you can walk toward that teacher, and you can say, you know what, I don't want to get into a fight. And you can even say it tough. Man, you know what, I don't even want to fight because I don't want to get in trouble. I think that'll work. So anyway, so here's the bottom line. I just wanted to do that because that gives you an idea of when I work with young people, how I work with young people. So now let me shed a little light on why I do that. So I wrote a book called Me Versus Me. And in the book, I talk about growing up. I talk about growing up with our sisters, brothers, mom, dad. And I talk about those times when I was labeled as that kid, who I guess you would even consider me a bully. Because it got to a point in my life where if you was in my space, it was going down. But before it got to that time to if you're in my space, it's going down, there was the introduction to Beecher Terrace housing community, better known as the projects, where my mom died at 10, and there was this girl who liked me, and I wouldn't go out with her. And so what did she do? She told her cousin I was talking about her mama, which makes it his aunt. The kid comes up to me, and I'm in elementary school, he's in middle school. He comes up to me, and back then we used to wear these jogging suits with 3 stripes on the side, and it was an LA Lakers jogging suit. I'll never forget it. So we're in Beecher Terrace, the projects, and he walks over to me. He says, whatever he said, all I remember is he's putting these gloves on. And this is what I do remember him saying. It's time for me to operate. Yeah, y'all figure that one out when y'all go home. So he puts the gloves on. He says it's time to operate. So long story short is I didn't fight back. And really, it wasn't even about me being scared. It was a situation where I did not have the tools, to even defend myself. Didn't have the tools to even try to get out of that situation. So for me, when I have young people like that, when people ask me to come in and work with kids, or when people ask me, a lot of people don't know this, so they know me as 2 Not 1, but they also don't understand that people seek me out to work with their kids individually in my office. I just work with their kids, and sometimes I work with the parents. But that's how I interact with the kids. I got to give them the tools. And then on top of that, I teach karate, so I'll teach you some tools somehow. But I want to read this to you before I sit down. Can I do that? Well, hold on. Let me gauge you out, because if you're sleepy and you're tired, I don't want to read to some sleepy, tired people ready to go out of here, and I'm stopping you from your exit. So can I read an excerpt out of my book, Me Versus Me? Are you sure? So my young people, right there, you, what's your name? Right there, you. No. You better be glad this microphone won't reach. What is your name? You got the black coat on, and you have a multicolored hoodie on that's like turquoise and pink. What is your name? Talia? That's a pretty name, Talia. Talia, do I have your permission to read just a few pages out of my book? Can I do that? And then I'll sit down. Is it okay with you? Thank you, Talia. Okay. Since I have Talia's permission, I'm going to read from my book. It's called Me Versus Me. Now, what people also don't understand, I had to write this book because I was in trouble with the law. I was kicked out of every school I went to. See, people just see 2 Not 1 guy and the guy who advocates for fathers and wants to strengthen families, but they don't realize I was kicked out of every school I went to. I went to an alternative school in Butcher. I got in trouble with the law. I was a frequent resident of JCYC. I ended up doing 2 years behind bars. I was homeless. I mean, the list goes on. So I said, let me put that in the book, because every time someone sees me, they don't realize all the drama that I was going through. They just see the guy who was out there getting into trouble. In other words, I had a talk with a kid the other day, and then I'm going to read my book. So I'm talking to the kid, and the kid's telling me, because he just got suspended to the board, and I ran across his father. So his father's almost in tears. I had never seen his father like this. And I said, what's going on, man? He said, man, my son just got suspended. So I offered to work with his kid. So I'm talking to his kid, and his kid's in my office, and he's like, man, I can get suspended because I know how to rebound and make good grades. So I said, well, I had to break down some things. But one of the things I shared with him is this. When I was a kid in Dawes High School, that was the last school I went to before they kicked me out, I was on the honor roll. Okay, that doesn't seem too big a deal. So let me rephrase. I was homeless. And I was literally homeless where at night I had to find me some place to sleep. And then I had to go to my partner's house, get my clothes, then I went to school. It'll catch up with you when you get home, if that's not a big deal now. And I told him that. And I let him know, guess what? I was on the honor roll, but my actions still got me kicked out of school to where I couldn't rebound. Don't let that happen to you. So we talked some more. We're going to cover some more bases in the upcoming weeks, but I want to share that. So this is a book. I got in trouble with the law. This is about a year into it. Something I learned when I was locked up is that people don't really know how to support each other. I would hear all the time from dudes, Majestic, I'm going to show you love when you get out, gangster. In other words, drug dealers promised to throw me some work when I was back on the streets. That's the love they knew how to give. The reality is it wasn't real love. Real love was Eugene Spratling from Indianapolis. We called him Spratling because it was his last name. Another inmate had a funny way of saying a person's name, and he would yell Eugene's name by saying, Spratling, Spratling. Spratling was a smooth-talking hustler from Naptown, showed me ways to make money and how to take care of myself. The only way to learn how to be a man is to watch a man. I had been around guys who were adult males, but not men, and there is a difference. He respected the female guards, never had a problem with the male guards, and even when he had a problem, he had a way of speaking to them where he maintained his rights when they tried to violate him. He also defended himself against other inmates. However, I don't know if he could fight because it never came to that. He showed me that no matter where you are in life, you should always take care of your appearance and state of mind. I would see him take long showers to relax, hang out with the fellas in the main room to get out of the limited size of the cell and to feel a little free. But what made Eugene real in my book is that he had the respect of not only me, Shawn Gardner, but Majestic as well. One day, Spratling sat me down and had a talk with me, and this is what he said. Shawn, you know what is real? 5 years from now, we over by U of L, and we walking down 3rd Street. You come up the street with your backpack, and we run into each other. We give each other dap and love and be like, I know you, but we can't figure out from where. Then it dawns on us at the same time, we remember, but we don't say where. We just glad to meet each other where we are, and we go about our way. That was real love. It's funny how the little things people do have such an impact on your life. But that discussion probably influenced my life the most. That was the first time I saw opportunity in my life. I actually saw a life where I didn't end up dead or locked up. When I got out, got my GED, was homeless for about a year, but scored high enough on the ACT to get accepted into U of L. The only thing is I never ran into Eugene again to tell him thanks and let him know he was part of the reason I went to U of L in the first place. So I'm going to end it with that. But the purpose of me reading that piece of my book is this. You know, I've heard a lot of the speakers talking today, right, and everything they're saying is relevant to youth violence. But at the end of the day, I know, I was there. My mom died when I was 10. By 14, I didn't even want to be here. I said, man, I'm getting out of here. And then in that anger, it grew outward. So now I'm trying to kill people trying to kill me. And that was real. I'm getting into fights at the gas station. And I take that, and I say to myself, you know what, how can I give that to the young people? So how can I say something to Lamaya that hopefully she'll relate to and be able to use that so it can help her in any situation that she's in? But it doesn't stop there. It also takes us adults. See, I think there's two different conversations taking place today. There's the conversation that we need to have with our young people directly, but then there's the conversation that we need to have with our adults. So in order to stop this violence, we still need to conversate with them, have the conversation with them, right? Give them the tools that they need, but we also need to have the conversations with ourselves to make sure that when they're thinking about suicide, that we're there. When they're thinking about the violence, we put them in spaces, or we give them the tools what P said, or we have them talking to Mr. Shawn, or anyone else in this room, like Safe Place. We got to give them the tools. And what was really cool about Eugene is this. A lot of times we talk to our young people and we tell them what they have the potential to do. Well, you can do this, you can do that. And the thing about Eugene, if you really listen to his words, he didn't say you can go to college. He already put me in college. So when I found myself homeless, I said, well, let me take this ACT thing and get into school. And how many of our young people need that they need that push, that encouragement? So I'm glad you put this on, Doug Wayne. Thanks for having me. And let's continue to do the work that we're doing to have an impact on these kids.
Oh, hang on. I have about 80 questions for you. You got time? You got to help me with a problem. Okay. You deal with youth more than I have. Okay. I go to these detention centers, juvenile detention centers. I go to schools. I go to safe schools. I go to, oh, these kids are rough. Look out. Right. I haven't met one yet. They're all fantastic. They're all great kids. What's going on? Am I blind? I mean, are most kids truly peaceful like I believe? Is it just a few that don't get it? Or is it, what's your assessment?
So if you're asking me, I think it goes back to when you talk to adults and what do we say when we come across a kid who has some issues, we say that kid is bad. And so what I tend to tell people, there's no such thing as a bad kid. Show me a bad kid, and I'll show you a kid who has some parents who can benefit from some tools, right? But even then, I don't say those are bad parents. I say those are parents that we as a community, we have to work with. So really what's going on in that conversation that you're having, you're running against people who really, a lot of times, and this is another thing, we got people who work with young people that don't necessarily need to work with young people. I think we need to be real about that. I think sometimes it's about a job. The economy's bad. I need a job, so I'm going to go work with these young people. But if you don't really know how to work with young people, if you can't reach Lamaya, and I can't reach every kid, but if you can't reach none of them, you might want to find a new profession. So.
Well said. Well said. Well, I mean, your story reminds me of something I hear often: homeless, going to school, a gap. I think we might start another award to give to kids, homeless kids, just for showing up for school. Forget about learning anything. It's so hard for some kids. It's a miracle they just were able to show up under the terrible circumstances. And until all kids have youth have a safe and healthy and mental and physically entrance to school, I don't know, we got to make that equal. I don't know how they can learn. Would you agree with that? I'm so glad. Thank you very much. No,
Then I said, but no, I agree with that. But again, that's why I do the blueprint. So when I go into the schools or when I go into a community center, for me, it's about taking that kid, because of the blueprint is comprised of attitude, behavior.
What's the blueprint?
It's a development tool that I use when I work with young people.
You developed it?
Yes. Okay. So
is it in the book? No.
But you can buy it. It's a curriculum you can buy. But here's the deal. So when I work with young people, one of the things, you got to meet young people where they are. So one.
You mean we got to meet them halfway, huh?
I tell you what, I like to have fun. And some people who know me say I'm a little brash, right? So I do a workshop, and in the workshop, I did one a couple of weeks ago. So it was high school kids, and some of the kids in the back were talking. So if you know me, you know I'm going to call you out. But I'm also prepared for what happens when I call my kids out. When I call these kids out, guess what I'm going to get? What do you get when you call kids out? What are they going to say? You what? Yeah, the attitude. But what is their favorite line? You disrespected me, right? So for me, it's about being able to meet them where they are. It's about, okay, wait a minute. Before you even talk about being disrespected, are you disrespecting me? And I think once you put it out there and you give our young people the tools, then they do better.
Shawn,
Yes, sir.
you and I have a conversation like this. So I want you to after you give them the tools, or you meet people that may be missing some tools, do you believe a form of a bit of self-determination can get you to overcome some of the troubles that you might have experienced in the beginning?
So I think what you're asking me is, do I believe in self-responsibility? And I do believe in self-responsibility, but I put more of an emphasis on social determinants. So for example, me thinking back to my personal experience, I was motivated. I just told you I was in high school, homeless, kicked out of every school. The last school I went to, I was on the honor roll. So it wasn't anything about me not being determined, but I did need some tools. So for me, it's about giving the kids tools. And I think look at it this way. As adults, we've gotten to where we are by experience, and we've learned. So when we had adversity, we dealt with it, and we learned something from that adversity, right? Now, we don't always get it. Sometimes we learn, but we still bump our heads. The catch is, when you do get it, do you look back on other people and say, well, I did it. Why can't you? No, I look back on other people and I say, okay, they may not learn as quickly as I do, so let me to continue to help them. So for me, it's not necessarily about self-determination. It's more so about giving you the tools to make you confident, and then from the confidence that you develop within you, the self-responsibility will come.
Which you are absolutely right. But I have to say, you did have self-determination, because had you not had the desire to want to do better, then you would never took the tools.
I think every kid has the desire to do better, but so we have to define, what does do better look like? So if I'm in the hood and do better is having more dope sold than you, then I'm doing better. If doing better is I can steal a car in 60 seconds or less, then I'm doing better. If doing better is going to school, which is really not that popular with the kids I work with, then I ain't going to do well in school. So it really is defined by, what do we consider doing better? Okay.
There's one other side to that, too. When I think about this, it's like he was in the military. We know today, for the experience of people in the military, it's called post-traumatic stress syndrome. Right. And when that happens, basically something in your life, like everybody everybody remembers 9/11. And you can visually close your eyes and understand and see 9/11. And what happens is our brains secrete a chemical that burns that in. Every traumatic moment is burnt in. So we know with our military folks, when they're coming back from Afghanistan, when they come back from Iraq and all of those other areas, they can vividly recall. And we know now through the VA and everything else that we need to move in and help counsel those things. What happened to you, losing a mom and everything else, you got hit with post-traumatic stress syndrome and didn't even know it. But yet we have no resources to help you as a child, as a kid, going through that.
While that's true, I think in my case, I think we're fortunate today because we do, I was talking to Anthony just last night, and I was saying how we have an opportunity to expose our kids to the mayor's office, right? So when I was growing up, we didn't have Friskies, family resource counselors in the school. We didn't have street outreach case management through Safe Place. We didn't have someone doing a youth violence symposium. We didn't have those things. At least I don't remember them. So I think we have a few more opportunities now for our kids to engage with that I think makes it a little bit better. But I will say this, what you're talking about reminds me of when I first heard what I'm about to say from your mom, Ramsey, Miss Janine Secure. We were talking about the record and things that happen to you and how that record plays over and over when it's scratched. And it does. I tell kids all the time, when I got beat up and I ran home and I cried, I didn't know how to handle that. And I can only imagine some other kids are going through that. And then those other kids who we see are as aggressive, they're the ones who are said, you know what, I'm tired of getting beat up all the time. So how do we meet those kids where they are, wherever they are, and give them the tools to manage their lives differently? Thanks for having me.
I'm sorry, I didn't get to hear more about 2.1. We're going to have to get you the next one, next time. Hear about the fathers. We don't want to let the fathers off the hook.